I cannot hardly believe it, but it is time to plant the onions. I am so excited. Last year, I had so many problems with dampening off, with having to restart the seeds. By the time it was time to put them out, they were not very healthy, they were not very strong, and they didn't do very well. So I cannot tell you how excited I am to get these little babies planted in the ground today. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. My name is Kim. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And if you find this information helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Appreciate it. So let's get these babies planted. Let me show you where they're going to go. So this is the bed I'm going to plant my onions in. It is 6.5 feet long by 3.5 feet wide. It's a metal Vega garden bed. On the bottom layer, I have cardboard. Then I have leaves, branches, and other yard debris. On top of that, I dumped in a lot of the potting soil from my grow bags from last year, from all the flowers that I planted. So just as a lower layer, I put that in there. On top of that, I put manure compost with a little bit of vermiculite mixed in. And then on top of that, I put in raised bed soil. Once I put the raised bed soil in, I went ahead and added a balanced, just general garden tone fertilizer. What I'm going to do now as I'm planting them is I'm going to add blood meal because it has a very high nitrogen level. And you would think that onions being sort of a root crop, that they would need a lot more phosphorus, but every peel on the onion is actually part of the leaf structure. So you actually need a lot more nitrogen throughout their lifetime. So what I'm going to do is every few weeks is I'm going to add some blood meal, some general fertilizer, and then probably every other week I'm going to use a liquid nitrogen fertilizer like fish emulsion. And I'm going to plant the onions about 6 inches apart. So let me get closer and we'll get those started. Where I am using a fertilizer, I'm going to make sure that I'm wearing gloves because you really don't want to touch that with your bare hands. And within this tray, I have 6 different onions. I have Walla Walla, Yellow Sweet Spanish, Calibra, Cabernet, Candy, and Expression. And these are all either intermediate day onions or long day onions. I live kind of right in the middle, a little bit more towards the long day. So those are the onions that I chose. We do have days that are about 14 hours and 35 minutes through June to July. So we can do some long day onions. I did not have a lot of success with any of my onions last year, so I'm very excited for the possibilities for this year. So let me get started. So I've got a little stake. I'm going to make little holes with that. I'm going to put them about 6 inches from the edges and about 6 inches apart. Okay, and what I'm also going to do is come back through and actually, so my 2 holes are here and here, I'm going to plant another onion right in between that so I can get a little bit more planted in the bed. So I'm going to stagger each of the rows. Okay, take a little bit of blood meal. Put a little bit into each hole. So let's start with the Walla Walla. So we have a very healthy root system. And what we're going to do is just very gently just tease these apart. They can take a little wear and tear. It won't hurt them. And we'll just break those apart one at a time. They actually come apart very easily. There we go. And then we're going to put these in about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep. You do not want to go above the white area. You do want to get the roots down below the dirt. As with many things, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle the blood meal over the bed. And this one, we're going to do the candy onions. And any really, really tiny seedlings, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of. You don't want to compact the soil very much. One of the things that onions do need is a very loose soil, because it will, if it's too compacted, it will not allow them to bulb up when it comes time for that. So this raised bed mix is really nice because it's very loose. So if you are planting in ground, you want to make sure that you have a really good aerated soil. I'm also putting worm castings into the bed to give a little bit more nutrient to it. And also, I have been trimming the top of the onions off for the last several weeks. Now that they're being planted out here, I will not trim them anymore. And my rows are pretty crooked, but okay. You do what you can do. I will be using drip irrigation with these. It is partially set up. And I do have a shutoff valve on these because once it comes time to harvest the onions, you'll want to turn off the irrigation so they won't continue to receive water. All right, so we're losing daylight. I got this bed planted up. What I'm going to do now is use some pine wood shaving animal bedding just to use as a light mulch over this. I went ahead, it is middle of March, so it's maybe slightly earlier. I'm about 6 weeks from my first frost. We have really warm temperatures for the next week or so. So I'm going to go ahead and let these get settled in. I'm going to go ahead and I've got a whole bunch more to plant, which I will do off camera. But next Monday or Tuesday, we're going to have a little bit of colder weather, so I'll probably cover these with frost cloth. But we should be good to go. I would like to thank you for joining me today. Hopefully this gave you some good information about planting onions. If you haven't actually started your own onions, usually Lowe's or Home Depot will have bunches of onion starts that you can buy there. You get a lot better production out of those than you do from sets because the sets are going into their second year, and so their focus is just on flowering and blooming, so your bulbs probably will not get as big. You have a lot better success if you start from seed, usually very early in January, if not late December, and then plant them out mid-March, about 6 weeks before your last frost. And then mulch them, and then if it gets really cold, go ahead and use some frost cloth on top of that. So hopefully this gave you some good information. If you are new here and haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And if this was helpful, please give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.